So what if the trinomial is not in standard form, is not in general form? Before you factor, you want to write it in that standard or general form. So that is a squared minus 2a minus 3. Remember that general form or standard form always starts with the largest degree or the largest exponent and is written in descending order with the constant as the last term. And then, if you're being asked to factor, you can factor as you have been. We can put a squared in the top left corner. We can write -3 in the bottom right corner, and we know that a times a will give us a squared. And because our constant is negative, we can say that one of the numbers has to be positive and one of them has to be negative in order to get us our middle term. And also in order to multiply to give us the -3. Now for 3, we only have one factor pair, and that's 1 times 3. So the question is, how do I use 1 and 3 to get -2? Well, I already know that one of them has to be negative. So to get -2, the larger number would have to be negative, which is the 3. And the 1 would be positive. So -3 times a is -3a, and 1 times a would be a positive 1a. And when we check, -3a plus 1a is -2a, and -3 times positive 1 is -3. So this factors as a minus 3 times a plus 1. If we look at the second one, r squared is going to be the first term, but then the next two terms are written out of order. So we want to rewrite this as r squared plus 16r plus 64. And then we can factor this. R squared, positive 64. We have r times r, and since everything is positive, I know that in my factor relationships, everything is going to be positive. So factor pairs for 64 are going to include 1 times 64, 2 times 32, 4 times 16, 8 times 8. Which of those will combine to give me a positive 16r? Well, that's going to be the 8 and the 8. 8 times r is 8r. 8 times r is 8r. 8r plus 8r is 16r. Positive 8 times positive 8 is 64. Now, we could write this as r plus 8 times r plus 8, but any answer key you look at is actually going to write this as the quantity r plus 8 squared, because it is a factor being squared. It'd be like saying 2 times 2, which we are most likely going to say is 2 squared. Let's take a look at two more. We would need to rewrite m squared plus 6m minus 16 we can write our squared term, we can write our constant. We know that m squared is going to be m times m. And since our constant is negative, it's fair to say that one of our factors is going to have an addition and the other one is going to have a subtraction. Factor pairs of 16 are 1 times 16, 2 times 8, 4 times 4. And the factor pair that would combine to give us a positive 6 is going to be that 2 and 8. And in order for that to happen, the 8 would have to be positive and the 2 would have to be subtracted. So 8 times m is a positive 8m. M times negative 2 is negative 2m. So 8m minus 2m is a positive 6m, and negative 2 times positive 8 is negative 16. So this factors as m minus 2 times m plus 8. And our last one. Again, the last two terms should be switched around before we factor. So we have r squared minus 13r plus 42. And we can set it up to factor. R squared, positive 42, r times r. And as I'm looking at this, 42 is positive, but the middle term is negative. In order for the middle term to be negative and the 42 to be positive, I'm going to have two negative values. And my factors of 42 are 1 times 42, 2 times 21, 6 times 7. And which one will get me negative 13? Well, that's going to be negative 6 and negative 7. So negative 6 times 7 is negative 6r. Negative 7 times r is negative 7r. Add those two terms and we will get negative 13r. And negative 6 times negative 7 will multiply to give us a positive 42. So this factors as r minus 6 times r minus 7. So another thing to keep in mind when factoring trinomials is to make sure that the trinomial is written in standard or general form, with the largest degree first and the constant last, and it's written in descending degree order in between.